Hello, can everyone hear me? No, hopefully see
Yes.
also. So, okay, awesome.
All right. So let me unshare my screen and you can take over from here now.
All right, yes, thanks, Samir.
So let me introduce you to the class. Chris is one of my very good friend now. We've been working together since many months now. I exactly don't remember how many months. We've been working on Flutter, Node.js and everything. Chris himself is very experienced Flutter developer, and he's been working since many years now. Now we can say that, okay, the Chris knows, like Chris is very old in the Flutter thing. For us, maybe it's new, but for Chris, it's very old. So he's doing software engineering, he's doing development himself. He's also working with many companies now, servicing them to build their applications. He's been part of many startups now, and even I've worked with him like in a couple of the startups. So he's very experienced, and today he will share his experience on how we can have the good Flutter understandability, how the Flutter is working, maybe what benefits of it using the Flutter, maybe what's the scope of Flutter in the industry, and these type of stuff. So Chris, stage is all yours and you can continue.
All right, so thanks for the introduction, Amir. It's also a pleasure working with you. I think it's really quite some months now. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me quickly share my screen. Are you already able to see my screen?
Yes,
All
we
right,
can
awesome.
see.
Then let's jump right into it. So thanks for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Chris. I'm a Flutter developer. The funny thing is I didn't start with Flutter. I started 2015 with Android, actually. And I wrote my first apps in Android the first 2 years until 2017. And then I noticed that I also need iOS, because normally if you want to target the market, you should not only target 50% of it. So I also learned iOS and Xcode. And in the year 2018, I started to learn about Flutter. So 2018 was the year when Flutter started to start taking off. And I heard from one of my friends, so, hey, do you know about the new framework Flutter? And I was like, I have no idea. So I investigated a little bit, and I saw how awesome it is, because it was like super fast to create apps. It was really performant, not like React, which was 2018, to be honest, a little bit slow. Now it has improved in its performance, but it was kind of slow, specifically with list use, for example. And yeah, so I started 2018, started to learn the first Flutter essentials. Then I started to write apps in it, small apps at the beginning, one for the city, one of our cities here in Germany. And yeah, from there on, actually, Amir is totally right. From there, I'm actually now like 100% a Flutter developer. I'm doing like small side projects, which are like 5% of it in iOS and Xcode, but most of the time I'm actually doing Flutter. So yeah, this is where my expertise comes in. Currently, I have an agency here in Germany who is creating apps for other companies. I'm also creating my own apps, and yeah, today I would like to talk with you about Flutter, why it's awesome, why I think you should learn it, and why I think there are like really huge opportunities in the market. And yeah, some more essentials about Flutter, because not only talking about the market is a little bit boring, I suppose. All right, so this is me. So the first question I asked myself is, why should I learn Flutter? This is in the year 2018. And in 2018, it was like, okay, it covers iOS and Android. This was like awesome, because before that, you had to write iOS and Android apps with two code bases, which was like a huge pain in the ass. But yeah, now it's like even better. Now it's not only Android and iOS, now it's also web. It's like mobile. So I already wrote two and a half, one is not finished yet, websites in Flutter. And they are really working great. At the beginning, it was like a little bit tough The first time when Flutter stable web came out was a little bit rough, but it's getting better and better. The performance is getting better. The file size of the index.js is getting better. So it's like, I think within like 1 year, you should be able to also be able to, for large companies to say, hey, we are doing for websites and we can write you custom websites however you like it in Flutter. There are no limitations, there are only really small limitations. Now, all of those limitations, you're actually able to cover in native code if you want to. The second reason why I actually love Flutter is the performance, because in like 98% of the cases, the performance is like 100% like in native, like in Android, iOS. Specifically Android, iOS. It feels like web, and web is currently a little bit lagging. Mobile, desktop is like native, but yeah, web is currently a little bit lagging. And which is really awesome, because it's a good example with React. If I want to have a performant app and I want to have a performant list view, I want to scroll and I don't want to have any kind of stuttering. This is what I experienced when I tried out a little bit with React, that, for example, list views were stuttering in some cases where the UI became complex. This is definitely not a case in Flutter. So you will love the performance of it sooner or later, depending on how complex your UI is. The learning curve is really steep. So you jump in and you don't have to learn the entire framework for being able to understand how to write code. You actually jump in and you will be able to write within your first 2 days, your first Flutter app. You don't have to understand the overall architecture. You don't have to understand how Dart specifically works in every aspect. Like, for example, if you're writing a C++ app, you can actually jump in. You can open your IDE and then build an awesome app. Well, maybe not too complex, but you can build an app within like 1 to 2 days. And then you can improve on it and become better and better and add more functionalities for practice reasons, for example, to get even better. So yeah, this is actually really cool. So in case Flutter is your first framework, I think you've chosen the right one, because it's easy to learn and you can really fast learn the concepts. This is now the next point is a little bit of maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. It's backed by Google. I think it's good because it's a huge company which is actually supporting their products, which are really successful. Google is also notorious for killing their products in case it's not successful. So, like we know this Google social media thing, which they killed like within 3 years. Yeah, so it can be an advantage or disadvantage depending on how you view Google. But I think it's cool that they are backing it and they are also financing it. And now this builds now on the last point. It's Flutter will be the framework and the language for Fuchsia. Maybe you've never heard about it. Maybe you already have. Fuchsia will be the next replacement probably for Android. So Fuchsia will contain the code which you can run on your mobile phone, on desktop, on web, like everywhere. It will be the next big platform thing. And Flutter will run Fuchsia. So Fuchsia is totally written in Flutter. Fuchsia is also an open source project. So if you want, you can also check it out directly after my presentation within the internet, within the GitHub repo, actually. And yeah, it's actually pretty cool. So if it gets launched within like 3 to 4 years, Flutter developers will be even more in demand, because now that we don't only have to write for Android, specifically for Android, but now we are able to write native code for Fuchsia, which is actually pretty cool, because currently Flutter is really performant, but it's not native. We got to be honest here about it. If you need some specific camera implementation, for example, you would not do this with Flutter. You would either use a package which is using native code, or you would write your own package in within Android and iOS and then publish it. So then you're able to reuse it. So this is currently, yeah, it's cross-platform, but Fuchsia will probably soon solve this issue. So yeah, this is really exciting, and I really hope that they will publish it within the next 3 to 4 years. All right, so The question of the questions, I'm not entirely sure how many people of you are doing React development, React Native development. I'd like to do a small comparison with the question, will Flutter dethrone React Native? As a small spoiler, I don't believe so, because yeah, as you will soon see, it has its performance, it has its bottlenecks, it has its advantages, but React Native is too large to be dethroned. I think they will share their platforms sooner or later, and maybe within the next 3 to 5 years, Flutter will become the main platform which we use for app development. For now, not, but I think within a 3 to 5 year period. So let's go to the comparison. So there are 5 aspects: performance, mobile performance, web performance, reliability, demand, and cost. Flutter and React Natives are both open source projects. These 2 frameworks promote hot reloading, which probably you already know from Flutter. So hot reloading is when you click on this magic button or simply just run Flutter hot reload, and it will directly show you the changes you made within the UI, which is really awesome. Android UI, iOS didn't have this. Like in 2018, they didn't have this. So whenever you did any kind of changes, you had to rerun the entire app. And I tell you this was really a pain in the ass, because yeah, sometimes you were writing like a totally new screen, and then you had to like wait 5 to 10 minutes until your app compiles on your device, which is like do this the entire day, and you know how you're able to lose time efficiently. So yeah, hot reload is a really huge game changer, and I really love it. Probably you do too as well. It increases the production efficiency by reducing the need to pause and restart your apps, as I already mentioned. And yeah, both have them actually. React Native, I think, included hot reload like 1.5 or 2 years ago. So after Flutter came out, they saw, oh, hot reload is actually kind of cool feature. So they also included it into their repository, or yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the mobile performance. So the main reason why actually Flutter is more performant in most cases than React Native is because React Native is built different. Within React Native, it's written in JavaScript, and you need a bridge. You always need a bridge for the UI elements, for the logic elements, for specific platform elements. You need a bridge which is talking between both platforms. Like your code is talking directly with the native code or the native platform in iOS or in Android. And this, let's call it bridge in this case, takes some time. Most of the time, it is not really recognizable. Most of the time, it's like 1 millisecond and even less. But this is what I mentioned at the beginning. It can become a little bit burdensome if firstly the UI becomes more complex, and if you are playing multiple different UI components within the screen. And this is where actually, and yeah, the reason is because it's always, React Native is always accessing directly the platform code. And this is not what Flutter is doing. Flutter this is really awesome in Flutter. Flutter has its own engine, its own traffic engine, which is called Skier. And within Skier, you are able, or they wrote for us widgets, which are like list view or container, sizebox. And those are all not native widgets. They are widgets which were drawn and which are painted by the Skier engine. So it's like some kind of like a game engine within a graphic engine for mobile development. So we are not accessing directly the native views. We are actually replicating those views with the Skier engine. And this improves the performance enormously, because now you don't have to ask the UI, the via bridge, don't have to ask the platform, hey, I want to have a container, and the container should have this and this and this decoration properties. You simply just say, hey, Skier engine, write me or show me a container with height, width, color, etc. And it will draw it for you directly. And here comes also the second really awesome point. You are able to change the design like really, really quickly. Why, for example, you don't have one specific shape you have in mind. You want to have the specific shape for the Flutter app, and maybe it should also animate. You can simply just use the custom painter and write or render object and write your own specific widget, which is not really difficult. So this is actually a huge advantage also compared to native, because in native it's like really difficult to write your own specific widgets with your own specific animations. It's really sometimes a little bit bothersome. They have improved within the years. Let me tell you this. Android Chat Composer and Xcode UI were really game changers in this part. But still, they are not as quick as Flutter, what I know from my development experience. So even Android and iOS natively can compare with the UI part, but they can compare with the logic part. So yeah, mobile performance I think goes clearly to Flutter. React Native is good in its part, but it's not as efficient and fast as Flutter. The web performance, on the other side, React Native was actually built for web. So it is definitely, firstly, it has more tools. It is currently quicker, depending on how you configure your Flutter projects. But currently, it is definitely better than Flutter. I believe within the next 2 years, the performance should increase dramatically with the current approaches the Flutter team is working on to improve the web performance. And the packages will, the amount of packages will increase, because currently, like yesterday, I had to write a small Flutter website for a client. And he wanted me to open the client, the email client, and currently this is not supported within a package. So what you actually need to do if you want to have this kind of functionality, you have to write it yourself, or you have to fork the package and write this entire functionality for yourself. This is doable. Still, it takes longer than if you simply just do it in React Native. So it has currently its problems, yet I believe those problems are really just temporary and will be resolved within the next 2 years, 100%. Or 99%. So yeah, the web performance goes to React Native currently. Let's go to reliability. How reliable is React Native and Flutter? I've heard a lot of stories about the reliability of React projects, and the biggest problem here is really that that the libraries you're talking with within your within your React Native project can change. And once they change, once they get updated, it can break your entire code base. And I'm sorry, my voice is breaking. Sorry. So the problem currently, really, this is my main problem with React Native, is that you're accessing packages, and those packages are able to change. And once they change, you get really big problems in case they are breaking changes, which can kill your app, your application, or your website, either way. And the reason for this is actually pretty simple. React Native does not currently, it has tools, but it does not have out-of-the-box ways to fix those kind of dependencies on specific version numbers. Because it's JavaScript, and I think it's running over NPM, so yeah. And this can be kind of burdensome. So there's a little joke with my friend who's also a React Native developer, and he tells me he has to write like the applications every 6 months are new again due to the package updates. So yeah, this is not what really what there's no problem in Flutter with this. We've got a pubspec YAML file where you're able to determine exactly what kind of version you want to have within your project, within your dependencies. And so if there are changes, you don't have to update them. You can update them. You sooner or later have to update them. So I had a project which is now like 3 years old, and you have to update them sooner or later, because otherwise the app will not run anymore on your IDE. But yeah, you can definitely have a better way to manage dependencies and packages, and you don't have to worry about, oh man, hopefully no package gets updated which has a breaking change. You can do it by your way, and you can do it. You can implement those changes slowly. This is what I'm doing actually. I'm implementing those package changes slowly, one by one. I'm also reading the documentation, if there are changes. So there's no really a big surprise for me if there are breaking changes within my code base. Demand and cost. So I think this is one of the most important points. How big is currently the demand of Flutter projects and how big is the cost factor with it? The Flutter demand is currently increasing tremendously. I gotta be honest here. So like 2.5 or 3 years ago, there was like nothing on the market because everyone was like, oh, Flutter is totally new, that it's not really reliable and so on. But it has proven itself. It has proven itself that it's performant, that it is reliable, that it is cost effective, because you can write Flutter projects with the half of the time, maybe like 60% of the time, which you need if you write it within iOS or Android. So it is a huge cost saver. The performance is awesome. So for companies, actually, there's no really reason to not switch to Flutter. And this is what we actually see with large companies currently within Germany. So I had like 1.5 years ago a request from BMW if I could continue maintaining and writing new parts of their applications. They have currently two applications, two large applications. And if I could continue writing this for them in Flutter. And yeah, so if BMW is one of the largest automobile companies within Germany, and I think worldwide as well. So if they switch to Flutter, I suppose most of the companies will sooner or later switch to Flutter in case there's not really a specific need to only implement specific platform implementations, like if you're a video company and you want to work specifically with videos, it wouldn't really make sense to write it in Flutter, because it's like, if you want to work with videos, specifically only with videos, you want to do this natively on iOS or Android. But besides from this, most of the time it's simply just showing UI and having some kind of logic, which is not really involved. So where no platform specific parts are involved. So yeah, you should do it in Flutter. Sooner or later, most of the companies are currently switching to Flutter. So the demand is high. Currently, the demand is growing immensely. We have only here in my city, which is called Munich. It's one of the largest in Germany. It's pretty small compared to your country. You have like really large cities, but it's like a 2 million city. It's really large in Germany. We have a really high demand of Flutter developers currently. So not only actually in Germany it is growing. So I also checked the markets in the US and so on. And the demand is currently enormously growing, but here's the big but, because React Native has already been on the market, has quite long time, within a quite long time period compared to Flutter. There are currently a lot of jobs also within the React Native side. So this is, yeah, to sum it up, this is the reason why I don't believe within the next year or so Flutter will dethrone React Native, but I believe within the next 3 to 5 years it will 100%, because there's really no big advantage to use React Native compared to Flutter, except that it's currently larger. It has a larger package support. And if Flutter catches up there's really no advantage to use React Native then anymore.